how do I handle it when my partner says no and I feel hurt or shut out?
That is your problem.
Yes.
That is absolutely your problem.
Yes. And I had to, going back to the alarm situation, I had to get over it. It's probably something, because that was so early on, that was probably something we addressed in, I can imagine we addressed that in our couples therapy, and I had to get over it. And there were situations where I said no to you and you had to get over it. You might have feelings about that but in the end, you have to come back to the relationship.
Right. And you have to, it is important to work through it. Mm-hmm. Okay. It helps to share with your partner how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Not to guilt them. This is not about guilting them. So your partner needs to understand that you're just sharing what's going on with you, because when you talk about it, it helps the adult in you, mm-hmm. your own adult, process those emotions.
Welcome to Boundaries and Beyond, the podcast that empowers you to set boundaries and nurture self-care, as well as have happier, healthier relationships. I'm Jennifer, your co-host.
And I'm Dr. Pokerel, your other co-host. And joining us is Trinity, the real junkyard dog.
Say hello.
And sometimes Toby doesn't want to be left out, so
yeah,
he's spread out on the front of us.
Yes. I hear the term boundaries thrown around a lot these days. But what does that term actually mean? We're here to clear all that up.
In every episode, we'll break it all down for you, share practical tips for building better boundaries so you can have healthier, happier, more balanced lives. And yes, we are that good.
Oh my goodness. Hello. And thank you for joining us here at Boundaries and Beyond. We are here to talk about how to say no. There's so many different scenarios in which we need to learn to say no, or how to say no in a diplomatic fashion, such as how do you say no to your partner or to your children, to your coworkers, a boss, friends. There's just so many different scenarios. So we're going to go over a variety of situations and how you would go about saying no using boundaries.
A lot of these questions that we're going to go over are questions that we see with couples commonly. So it's a composite of questions. Mm-hmm. And we'll try to answer them as best we can as we go. And what are the topics that we're going to use on how to say no?
Well, starting with how to say no between partners. How would you say no with your kids? Saying no with your in-laws and extended family members. Saying no with friends, the church, and the community. And if we have time, inner struggles about saying no.
Okay. That last one sounds complicated.
Yes.
Okay, why don't we start? Because this is where most people are going to have questions on, mm-hmm. is how do you say no to your partner? And I remember the first time after we started with our own therapy, started working on setting boundaries. And I don't remember what your question was, but you asked me if I would do something. We were coming out of the house, getting in the cars, and I think you were getting in your car, I was getting in mine, and you said, can you do this? And that's something that normally I would have been resentful and said yes, because I don't know what, I still don't remember what it was about, but the point was that it's something that I normally felt I couldn't say no to. Mm. And then when you asked and I said no, and then you just said, okay. And I felt this relief. It's like, okay, that was easy. But it was something silly too, but it's something that I just couldn't say no in the past. Mm. And so just before we go on to these questions, what are the two major rules where we say no? And it's important that we just review them. And there's just two. One is if you're going to be resentful. Mm-hmm. you have to say no.
Yeah.
And the other one is if you're enabling the other person.
Yes.
So if somebody comes up to me, an alcoholic comes up to me and says, "Can I have another beer?" And I don't say, and I said, "Sure," and I don't say no,
Mhm.
then I'm enabling that person. That's an obvious one.
That's obvious.
Right. And that's basically it. And this one that I just told you about, that if I'm going to be resentful, I have to say no.
I remember, way back when we were first doing this, um, one of the no's that I had to get through my head was, that you weren't gonna wake me up in the morning.
Okay. Maybe you need to give some background information there.
So I struggle with getting up in the morning, and, I used to make it your job to make sure that I got up in the morning. Um, uh,
And by the way, for those listening that are still doing something like that, that's very
it
dysfunctional
is, yes,
because you're a grown up. You're not a 5-year-old.
exactly, yes.
So if you make it my job that I wake you up, then I'm behaving as your parent.
Well, and then guess what? Thank God our children, our oldest was only 8 years old at the time. But then if we continued in that, and I didn't see the logic at the time, but having a grown son and an almost grown younger son, if we had continued that dysfunction in our lives, then, as adults, who's going to get them up out of into college and when they're off on their own 2 hours away or further for some people, you can't follow your children around waking them up. Or the other scenario is where people end up in dysfunctional relationships, perpetual relationships, because they can't live without that caretaker. So they end up in relationships they don't even want to be in because they need a caretaker all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And welcome divorce
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we go over that one? Because that's an interesting one
Mhm.
that you kept asking me. And I don't remember how we finally got to the point that we understood I couldn't just keep waking you up.
Well, I'm sure we did it in a very dysfunctional way back then because we were just learning how to set boundaries. I remember feeling very resentful and felt like it was so unfair. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, what a brat I was. And making that your job, and what's to happen if you're away on a trip, um, or God forbid, one of us outlives the other, then you've got this extremely dependent situation where we can't live without each other. I can't go away on my own with my mom, say for instance, to a funeral that we're planning in the summer because I got to have my husband wake me up. Sorry.
So just a point there on terminology. The term codependent
Mhm.
actually is a disease of immaturity.
Yeah.
So we don't mature. So essentially, when you say making me dependent, is we're both being codependent
Yeah.
because I'm not letting you mature and you're not maturing. And
Exactly.
by the way, in other scenarios, we're flipping roles, and I was the one that was um, acting like a child, and you were mature. Because I don't remember, there were such few of those
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
instances
Whatever.
that I just don't remember.
Sure.
But
I remember, way back in the beginning, I, was dead tired taking care of a newborn infant, and, I was always loading the dishwasher for you. You would, put your dishes in the sink, but then I had to put the dishes in the dishwasher, and so I remember it was sort of like your scenario where I finally asked you, and this is way back in the beginning, I finally asked you, "Can you please put your dishes in the dishwasher, dear?" And you said, "Okay." And I was like, "Oh." Who's that? He's
It was
yeah.
that,
Here
right?
I was being resentful all these years for nothing. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
Right, and that's part of the dysfunctions. We just harbor resentment when we don't even know what the answer is
Mhm.
because we're so afraid of even asking the question.
Yeah.
So, okay, so those are two good examples. Now that wasn't a no, but that was a clear question of can you put him in? Now,
Oh,
if you
yeah, the
can you put him in? I said
well,
yes.
I guess it was because I was making up the no in my head.
Right. You were
Yeah.
assuming that I was going to say no or throw a tantrum or whatever.
Mhm.
And it was as simple as I'm dealing with a newborn. Can you help me out by putting your dishes in the dishwasher?
Yeah.
And that's an obvious one, especially a lot of time men are just not aware that they're doing things. So it's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I often hear for those ladies that listening and for the men, the classic dynamic is in the Beauty and the Beast story that the man needs to be civilized, and the only way he's civilized is by living with a woman and
With a
finally
with a
bonding with a
woman.
woman.
Yeah. Mhm.
So anyway, let's move on. So what is the first question that
All
we have?
right. So the first question, how do I say no to my partner without them taking it as a rejection or disrespect? And I think we kind of answered that.
Yeah, we kind of, but I
Mhm.
think the part about let's just be a little bit more explicit about it.
Mhm.
So first things first, you have every right to say no.
Mhm.
Okay, because that's the first thing about boundaries. You don't have to explain your boundaries. If you don't want anybody in your personal space, sometimes it's easier if we talk about them from a physical standpoint.
Mhm.
If you don't want anybody in your personal space, you don't need to explain.
Yeah.
You just need to say no.
Mhm.
Now, with a partner, the boundaries blur a little bit more. And so the question is, how do I say no without being resentful?
Mhm.
So, I mean, it was without being disrespectful.
Disrespectful,
Right.
yes. Mhm.
So a simple no is not disrespectful.
No.
So if you say no and then you qualify it with
Mhm.
you witch
Mhm.
or you jerk, then you're being
Yeah.
disrespectful.
Or their tone of voice, body language also counts.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
one way of saying it, aside from just saying no, is you want to be a little bit more, go an extra step and be polite.
Mhm.
Is you can extend it. I can't help you with that.
Mhm.
And well, if you follow that logically, and they said, well, why can't you?
Mhm.
And it's because it's my boundary.
Mhm.
They can be as simple as that. Now,
Yeah.
when you have a dysfunctional individual and somebody that's working on boundaries, you're going to have some conflict regardless,
Yeah.
right? But
And
that,
and it's gonna take a while to get it right, some practice on saying it in a kind, diplomatic way.
right. And
Mhm.
that was my next point is
Mhm.
that it helps to have another couple or a good therapist that's familiar with boundaries.
Mhm.
By the way, training on boundaries is different than just getting a degree in psychology.
Yeah.
Because actually, none of my psychology courses cover boundaries.
No. You're right.
None of them do.
Yeah.
And boundaries are practical.
Mhm.
That's something you can read about them, etc., but you actually have to practice them. It's like learning to play football by reading a book,
Mhm.
okay? And learning to cheerleader without, just watching TV,
Mhm.
um, that kind of stuff. So you actually have to sit down, understand them, and then practice them.
Mhm.
So there's two levels of knowledge there. Okay,
Mhm.
it's a skill.
Mhm.
And having somebody and that's kind of what we were doing with our couples group is we sit there and go over simple boundaries because you got to start simple.
Yeah.
You can't get into the complicated stuff.
Mhm.
You got to start with the toothpaste. That's why we always say practice with toothpaste. So let's do let's do an example with a toothpaste issue. Um, that you asked me how to do it, and I'll do it in a rude way.
How about the alarm? Is that toothpaste or is it
Yeah, that's
okay.
fine. I
All
don't
right.
remember the alarm issue, but
Yeah, so I was having you wake me up in the
oh,
morning.
the
Yeah.
wake at the okay, that alarm.
Mhm.
Okay, so okay, how did you ask me? How would you ask me now?
So, Honey, I need you to wake me up in the mornings, because I can't do it on my own.
Okay. So two things. My thought process is number one, I'm being enabling
Mhm,
because if I have to wake you up every morning, I wouldn't expect another adult to do that to another adult, right? You're not a child.
mhm,
So in my mind, I'm thinking, what would an adult do?
mhm,
A healthy adult.
mhm.
Uh, Second, the other question is, am I going to be resentful? And the answer is yes. If I have
Okay,
to wake you up every morning, I will. So I have to say no.
okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that's an important boundary. So I say, I'm sorry, honey, could you be more specific as to, I'd be happy to help you out with specific situations that you might need help waking up
Mhm.
rather than every morning. Do you mean every morning or just on particular days?
Could you I really need to make this dentist appointment, and I've already missed it 3 times, and I've tried, setting my alarm, like I'll
This is an actual situation. This has happened. This really has happened.
And
Okay.
so I just know that in on for some reason, I'm having a hard time making this particular appointment, and I really need to be able to make it. Can you help me this one
Okay.
time?
So, yes, the answer is yes. And I did help you out.
Mhm.
Rather than saying blanket approach, can you wake me up every morning for the rest of my life?
Yeah,
Because that's what it sounded initially.
yeah,
Um, I helped you specify situations in which I'm willing to help you.
yeah.
So, do you see now
Mm,
how that is less rude? Is like, I'm open to helping you out. I just
mhm.
can't do it every day
Yeah,
because I got to wake myself up too.
yeah. And, another I wanted to make a point, another way that I learned to say no because I was terrible at this, I considered myself a huge coward when it came to say no prior to our recovery, was I started a Bible study with a group of girlfriends with the, Boundaries, workbook by Townsend and Cloud, and it's a I can't say that, biblically based, boundaries study. And so we actually practiced on each other, but we also went out into the world each week and we would come back and reinforce our triumphs by repeating what we did with each other and kind of giving ourselves, and this really helps by giving yourself uh, accolades for saying, you know what, I was able to tell this person that I'm friends with that no, I can't go to coffee with you on Wednesdays anymore. It's just I'm finding myself getting really stressed out trying to make these appointments, or uh, a variety of different situations like that. When you repeat those situations and you hold each other accountable, and celebrate your wins, it really makes a difference.
Okay, so now you're talking about setting boundaries with friends, which was
Oh,
one of the
sorry.
upcoming topics, but
Yeah,
that's okay. That's helping. I just want to keep track of what we're doing.
yeah.
And okay, so ask me again about the alarm, helping you with the alarm. I'll give you a very dysfunctional response.
Honey, I really need you to wake me up in the mornings.
You always do this. You always depend on me to do things. I can't do this anymore. I can't stand it. You're going to have to figure out how you do yourself. But I mean, that would have been a past response. And
Yeah.
then the you always, when I said
Mhm.
you always, that's one of those statements that is uh, very dysfunctional, very aggressive, and it's
Blaming.
essentially character. Yeah, it's blaming, and it's also characterizing you
Mhm.
as an always dysfunctional individual. And I'm doing a one up.
Yeah.
I'm taking a one up position there
Mhm.
while shaming you for that.
Yeah.
So those, yeah, that's so those we did two examples there of how to be a little bit more courteous.
Mhm.
And it always helps, at least in your case, it helps to ask your partner how to respond.
Mhm.
So you like it when I use terms of endearment
Yes.
with you.
Yeah.
So I say, dear, or I start with something like, honey, I need some more information. I really can't help you in this situation. I'm kind of tied up, but I start with that.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that doesn't matter,
Mhm.
um, but to you, it does. So I make an effort, and this is where we step into a sign of love: is you make an effort for your partner
Mhm.
so that they receive your message, because that's the whole point of boundaries, is that we're able to communicate our message in a way that our partner will receive it.
Mhm.
And at the same time, we work on ourselves so that we can receive our partner's message, even when it's dysfunctional, because we're not always going to be um, in a proper center, as we call it. You're going to be
Mhm.
in a proper mood or tone or mindset.
I like how earlier you also asked me to clarify what my needs were. So, in essence, what you were doing was you were affirming me and you were trying to make sure before jumping to conclusions that I always, do this to you, that I'm not asking for something very specific. Because often we already think we know the script in our head. And it's very common to just jump to conclusions, especially if there's a statement in there that may have been triggering to you in some way. Now your partner can't read your mind all the time and figure out what's always going to trigger you. So it's always best before jumping to that resent resentment and anger to clarify. Uh,
And if you do, let's say you snap at your partner and then you realize, oh, I snapped, I went back to my dysfunctional behavior. It's okay to say, I'm sorry,
yeah.
and start over.
Hmm.
Okay. And then the other person needs to realize that that's going to happen too,
Yeah.
especially early on. As you get more proficient with boundaries, that'll get easier.
And we often, especially in the beginning, we made amends to hold ourselves
Right.
accountable.
Amends is important. So
Mhm.
offer amends. And by amends, we mean something like, if I snap at you, for example, I'll clean the sink for a week or something like that.
Or rub your feet or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
something that brings you back to the
Yeah.
relationship.
Not I'll buy you ice cream or flowers. That's not bringing you back to the relationship.
You like the flowers.
I like the flowers too, but I guess what I'm saying is it's something that,
Something relational.
yeah, that brings you back, whether you spend time, uh, reading with each other or going for a walk in the park, something that you're,
And that was someone that we used to do, is you read a chapter of the recovery book or something to each other.
yeah.
That was a good amends,
Hmm.
especially around the topic of where we screwed up.
Yes. Yeah.
So, okay, so what's the next one?
So the next one is what are age appropriate ways to explain our no? Oh wait, somehow I skipped ahead there. I was wondering how that related to a partner. What words can I use to say no that are clear but still loving?
Okay, well, I don't think no is not loving.
Hmm.
It might be neutral, but no is important, especially when we realize that our partners practicing self-love when they say no.
And I've heard some people do have a style where they say, "Honey, I love you."
Right.
And that's just reassuring to your partner. I'm not leaving you. I'm not abandoning you, especially if your partner has an abandonment issues. Honey, I love you. But for me, I'm going to have to say no on that.
That's very good. And
Mm.
also, part of the what I like about your answer is that you want to know your partner's wounds.
Yeah.
So most of us are going to have some level of abandonment issues,
Hmm.
but that may not be everything.
Yeah.
So knowing what your partner is dealing with at the moment, it's a good way to say no. So make it about you. Why, if I'm saying no to you, it helps to say why
Mhm.
And again, we don't know an explanation,
Mhm.
but it helps to say why I can't say no. Now, with my partner, with you, I will tell you often why this is not something I can do. With strangers, I often don't really give much of an explanation.
Mhm.
And if they push, if they pry, that's more of a reason for me to say, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't, I can't answer that. I can't deal with that. I can't be involved,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but with your spouse, for example, if you say, I'm trying to think of an example, but um, I had to caretake a very immature parent.
Mhm.
Okay, so there was a lot of role reversal.
Mhm.
So when you asked me to wake you up, and actually she did not, she had problem getting up before 11 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
That'll give you an idea of my level of problems there. So if you are asking me to wake you up in the morning, um, that just brings back memories of my situation at home.
Yeah.
Um, and that way I'll say, look, I'm overwhelmed if I have to do this all the time.
Yes.
And you know why I'm saying overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the good thing is I don't have to explain it to you, but you already know that I have issues with
Mhm.
role reversal with a parent.
Yeah.
Um, another one is accusing me, um, and I'm trying how to bring this up to how to say no, but another issue that I have is accusing me of something I didn't do
Mhm.
because I took a lot of blame for things I didn't do growing up.
Mhm.
Um, and when you blame me of something and you ask me why I did whatever, sometimes I won't answer. I won't even say no, I didn't do it.
Mhm.
I'll just shut down. Now that doesn't happen as much anymore, but I'll shut down
Mhm.
because I was in that situation.
Yeah.
But you know those wounds now. I mean, you've known them pretty
Yeah.
much our whole marriage, but you understand now how they affected me.
Well,
And
the important thing was I didn't realize because these are things that are so commonly considered just mainstream America that I didn't realize that they were wounds until we went through our recovery. And the beauty about saying no and with your especially with your partner and by saying, "Honey, that just reminds me of when I had to wake up my mother every morning." And I didn't even know that. I didn't realize you were waking up your mother every morning and basically role reversal. Well, I knew there was a role reversal. I didn't know to what extent, but you get to know your partner better. And you get to know, especially, I think for men, it's harder. Most men don't whine about, not that we're whining when we're being real and talking about ourselves, but most men aren't going to know how to open up and just explain their hurts and their wounds and these things. But a no is an opportunity for them to open up and be vulnerable and say, hey, my mom used to asked me to do this all the time and it drove me crazy. And now I'm doing it again with you. It helps me to know you better.
yeah, I want to make a comment about that.
Mhm.
This is kind of side note because there's a number of podcast bros that are going around saying that men shouldn't be vulnerable, that there's no such thing, that that's a sign of weakness.
Mm.
Um, and I just want to point out that weakness and vulnerability are two different things.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable from a position of strength
Mhm.
is intimacy.
Yeah.
Um, being vulnerable from a position of weakness is just weakness.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we are being vulnerable after, especially after therapy, and I'm generally just vulnerable with you and some close relatives and friends,
Mhm.
that's intimacy.
Yeah.
That's not weakness. And I just want to make that clear. And I'll be happy to debate anybody that wants to argue otherwise. So besides
Yeah.
the point,
I can
yeah, they can.
trust me. You're a tough guy.
So the the question being again, how do I say this in a respectful way. I think you put it best.
Hmm.
Honey, I love you, but I can't do this because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
And start with, honey, I love you, or I love you, dear, whatever your your pet name is for your spouse
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
your significant
Or
other.
term of endearment in some way. Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't we pause for a second
Mhm.
um, and go over what Trinity's wearing? Because she
Oh.
looks like she's going to fall asleep.
Yes, we better get to her before she falls completely asleep here. Um, Trinity, what are you wearing? She's in honor of spring. It is spring break after all. We're wearing her first spring dress of 2026. She's got little butterflies. Yesterday I saw the most beautiful monarch butterflies.
Can you describe it a little bit for the people that are just on the audio only?
Yes, yes. So little gray and pink butterflies with and the dress is white, and then she's got a little pink bow on the back and two little pearls that usually if she can get to them, she tries to gnaw those off. So thank goodness they're on the back. And yeah, so she's looking very cute today in her spring dress. She did have her eyebrows done by my oldest son.
So our oldest son, when he comes home, he grabs a permanent marker and paints eyebrows on the dogs. And
Thank
of
God it came off.
yeah, so this one, and we don't find out until we look at the dogs and they're looking at us with surprise. So
She looked more like Frida Kahlo.
yeah, he did do a unibrow on her.
Yeah. I know, you poor baby.
Okay.
All right.
All right, let's move on. What is the next
Okay.
one?
So, the next question, how often is it okay to say no in a healthy relationship?
There's um there's a saying for children. I'm just going to throw that in now because I think it kind of applies to adults. You say no as much as necessary,
Mhm.
as little as possible, and when you say it, you mean it.
Yeah.
Now, with children, those are very, very, you have to stick with those.
Mm.
But with your partner, you can say it as often as necessary.
Yeah.
A lot of times, it just depends on what you're dealing with. Are you dealing with a dysfunctional relationship? Are you guys just starting recovery?
Mhm.
Are you learning to say no? Then you want to say it. Even when you don't mean it, you might want to say it
Yeah.
just to practice.
Yeah.
And
You can
just make
always
sure that you both understand that that's what you're
you can
doing.
always retract it as long as you get a respectful answer.
Right.
Mhm.
So if you need to practice, just make sure you both are on the same page that
Yeah.
we got to practice saying no. So I'm just going to say no after start,
Mhm.
and then I'll think about it after I say no. That's okay.
Mhm.
Just make sure you guys come back to the table.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it's really as often as you have to do it. And what was the second part of the question?
Um
How often?
how often is it okay to say no in a healthy relationship? So there wasn't a second part, but I have
Okay.
a caveat to that. So we were getting really, I guess, we were in our toddler stage of our recovery, saying no regularly. And we then went to a PMLAD workshop. Do you remember that in Louisiana, where we were being used as the guinea pig couple in a workshop? I guess Pia was wanting to show off her prize pupils,
And that
and
would be us.
yes, and so she had asked. I was triumphantly telling you no when you wanted me to pick up my. I had some when I eat a protein bar, I'd leave the wrapper on the end table. Between the two of us, we were huge messes. And so anyway, I would leave my protein wrapper and and I remember you asking me, which I was completely clueless that this even was a bother to you, because I guess I'd done it our entire marriage. And so you had asked me if I would just throw those away. And immediately the first thing that pops up in my mind is, well, what about the dishes?
Oh, yeah, yeah. You start comparing notes.
Yes, I started comparing notes, and then Pia goes, whoa, 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 whoa. So, Jennifer, did you hear he asked you out of he was vulnerable with you, and he was asking you and told you that this really bothered him, that it really he was whacking himself out about it. He wasn't blaming you. He was simply telling you that he whacks himself out over this. And so I sat and thought about it, and I go, yeah, but I don't have to. I mean, that's his problem. That's about him, not about me. we would, we were, we'd gotten so used to using that language. That's about him, not about me. And using that hand gesture too, where you push that person away
The
with the
issue,
hand,
you're pushing at the
push the
issue.
issue away, and then you touch your heart with not about me. And so we were so used to that. I was like, yeah, that's about him, not about me. And so she said, well, I want you to hear what he's really saying, what's beneath what he's saying. He's saying this hurts him. This is painful. And as someone that you really care about, do you want them to be in that kind of pain? And I thought about it. Now, this probably comes later after you've gotten used to saying no. You do need to come back to yourself and say, now, do I, this is so easy for me to just walk the wrapper over to the trash can. Why can't I just do that for my husband, the person I love, the person that I want to feel good in his skin, not to be walk into the living room and feel anxious and resentful the moment he sees those candy wrapper or the protein wrappers. And so out of that, I decided, okay, yes, I can say no, but I can also retract that no and decide that, okay, I will do it for you. Knowing that if I forget, that's still about him. It's not about me. But in the meantime, I can try to be better about that.
Okay, so that on another note, there was something similar, which was, remember you were asking me to turn the AC on in the car before putting the baby in the car seat
Mm-hmm.
because you would get really hot. And I said, well, I have the baby with me. I wanted to put the baby in the car seat first and then turn on the car. And there was a lot of back and forth there. And Pia finally looked at me and said something similar. And
Yeah.
he said, sometimes we just do things for people we love. And as she was right before they said that, I had already come to that conclusion. I was thinking it's not a big deal for me to turn the car on first, turn the AC, and then put the baby in the car seat.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So I had already decided I was going to say, yes, I'll do that. But I kept saying no out of a stubbornness because I thought it was like, why does it bother you? Why can't I just put the baby on and then turn the car on? But for whatever reason, you were asking me to do the opposite because you were very hot and you were still dealing with pregnancy weight, etc.
And
So
it's Texas after
and it
all.
was Texas summer.
Mm-hmm.
So you had asked me, um, you had asked me to do this for you so that you would be more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got past my stubbornness of just wanting to say no because I could,
Yeah.
then
You get
we got
addicted
past
to
that.
it.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
start getting addicted to it because it is empowering.
Yeah.
But you part of and it comes across. People ask, how do you say no without and be respectful
Mm-hmm.
and not hurt your partner? Well, as you practice and you start doing it out of love, it gets easier for both of you, one to receive it and one to give it.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing just starts getting smoother.
Yeah.
And now we don't have as much of a problem with saying no
Yeah.
to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's the next question?
All right. So what do I do if my partner keeps pushing after I say no?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Um, that is a tough one. And I have a major wound around that
Mhm.
because whenever I would say no, um, you brought up my mother already. I was trying to avoid saying that, but it's she would go for months until I finally said yes.
Yeah.
And this was as a kid, this was exhausting.
Yeah.
And even as a teenager and even a young adult, this can be very draining.
Yeah.
So, um, you're going to have to set some boundaries around that. By the way, you can say no. We already established you can say no as often as you need to.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, so if your partner keeps asking, you might need to set a final no and say something to the effect of, you keep asking me this, but the answer hasn't changed.
Mhm.
If you ask me again, I'm not going to reply.
Yeah.
Or there's going to, I mean, those are more serious consequences. Now, you're not going to hit your partner. You're not going to yell at them, nothing like that. But you, for example, you can just get up and leave.
Yeah.
You warn them, look, if you ask me this again, I am going to get up and leave.
Yeah.
Um, and that might be to, it may get to that point.
Yeah.
But what we would advise is that you have a discussion with your therapist about it if you have one.
Mhm.
If you're not going, if you're not both going to therapist, you're going to have to separate yourself from the situation
Mhm.
until your partner realizes that this is an issue, that they have to respect your no's.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, that's a really, really tough one. And if one partner is not in recovery, it's really hard
Yeah.
to do that.
And it may take months or years for that person to get it, but we've had other people in our lives uh that were like that, and eventually they get the message. Depending on how stubborn they are, they it may take months or years, and they may even years later try to test the boundaries once in a while again, but eventually they will get the message. They will get tired of the consequences of you having to leave and go out for coffee with a friend, or go over to your parents' house and spend the night, or something of that nature, where uh, if they keep pushing you.
You might need to separate yourself from the situation.
Yeah, yeah,
If there's any danger of your partner getting physical, then you really need to seek professional help.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely. You definitely need help navigating that one. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't change what's going on in an abusive, physically abusive relationship. Um,
Yeah, that one you need professional help.
yes, yes. This podcast cast isn't going to help you navigate that.
No, you might understand the principles, but this is
Yeah,
not meant to fix that or address that.
yeah.
So,
Mhm.
okay. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, let's move on.
All right. So, the next question: how do I handle it when my partner says no and I feel hurt or shut out?
That is your problem. That
Yes.
is absolutely your
Yes.
problem.
And I had to, going back to the alarm situation, I had to get over it. It's probably something, because that was so early on. That was probably something we addressed in, I can imagine we addressed that in our couples therapy, and I had to get over it. And there were situations where I said no to you and you had to get over it. You might have feelings about that for a few hours, a few days. But in the end, you have to come back to the relationship.
Right. And you have to, it is important to work through it.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, it helps to share with your partner how you're feeling,
Yeah.
not to guilt them. This is not about guilting them. So your partner needs to understand that you're just sharing what's going on with you, because when you talk about it, it helps the adult in you,
Mhm.
your own adult, process those emotions.
Mhm.
But that's usually a very early wound where if somebody tells you no, you feel hurt.
Yeah.
And journaling helps if your partner is not receptive.
Definitely.
talking to a friend, but not,
Mhm.
again, this is not about blaming.
Yeah.
Remember, your partner has every right to say no, even if you don't like it, has every right to say no.
And you have to be really careful about the friends you talk to about these kind of things. If you've got that sort of artificial intelligence friend that's always kind of sycophantic towards you, going, "Well, girl, you need to tell him,"
Yeah, you shouldn't
that's
be
not,
getting advice from anybody else. You just need
no.
somebody that's going to listen.
Yeah, somebody, and if you don't have friends like that, joining a recovery or support group is also very helpful, like Celebrate Recovery or Codependence Anonymous or a couples therapy group or couples recovery group like RCA. Those are free and they're very
And
helpful.
you can join them online too.
Yes.
But
Hmm.
but it is important that when I say get over it, I, I don't know if I said get over it, but you do need to process it and deal with it.
Hmm.
And this is what we're talking about is you have to understand why you're feeling that way and not blame your partner for it.
Hmm.
Because that's the problem is if you're blaming your partner for that, you're the problem.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you're projecting your issues onto your partner and you can't do that. That's going to destroy a relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
All right. So,
Why don't we move on to kids?
okay.
So we did one already. How often do you say no to kids? And then
Mm.
is again, as often as necessary, as little as possible. That means you don't go around saying no to a child.
Yeah.
You just got to figure out how to say no to the thing because they have to be kids. You have to let them be kids.
Yeah.
But when it comes to things like safety or things that you're not willing to
Compromise.
compromise, you got to say no.
Mhm.
And then when you say it, you mean it.
Yes.
So let's say they want to spend the night at a friend's house. You got to have a good reason to say no,
Yeah. Like,
right? I mean, if
we
they're too young, that's one thing,
yeah.
or there's some other reason. But for the most part, there's not a good reason to say no if
Mhm.
you trust a friend's family. The kid's going to be okay. They're going to have fun,
Mhm.
etc.
Now, maybe it's the weekend and, when they go to this friend's house, their their parents don't parent the way you do and probably let them eat too much candy. Um, well, no better time for them to learn that eating too much candy is going to give them a stomach ache. And you saying, look, if you end up eating too much candy and you feel sick, I'm going to be in bed by 9. I'm so sorry, sweetheart.
So you're talking about letting the consequences do the
Yeah,
teaching.
that's your way of saying no. Let the consequences teach them, and they'll learn to say no to themselves.
Yeah, the next time it comes up, you reminded them, look, remember what happened last time?
Yeah.
You sure you will still want to do that? That's what we're talking about is dialogue. And there's a series, Parenting with Love and Logic,
Hmm.
that's really helpful in this regard. For example, a child wants to go out and play in the snow without gloves.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen. They're going to get frostbite. They're going to get cold. You don't want to do that. So you tell them it's really cold. Are you sure you want to do that? And if they say yes, you say, okay, well, that's not okay. You can either take mittens or you can take gloves. What do you prefer? And then you give them a choice.
Hmm.
But you help the child work through choices
Yeah.
rather than just flat out saying no.
Yeah.
So those are that's another way of saying no is you give them choices
Hmm.
choices that you're comfortable living with. And that works like magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
That works really, really well. We were surprised at the beginning is like, oh,
Mhm. Now, when the kids were older in middle school and they thought that they were too cool to wear a jacket to school, well, okay.
be cold.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
And I get a phone call in the afternoon. Mom, can you bring? No, I've got things I've got to do. I can't. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, but
You wanted to go
yeah,
without your jacket.
yeah,
So those are the consequences.
yeah,
And they stopped doing that after a
yeah.
while. Okay.
um, all right. So, what are age appropriate ways to explain our no so it doesn't feel random or unfair?
Okay. one way is to use logic according age appropriate logic. So we
Mm,
talked about the gloves versus mittens. So when you give kids choices,
mhm,
it's very they have to understand it. But when you give kids choices, it's very easy to guide them away from that situation.
mhm,
Again, choices you can live with because it's surprisingly easy to give a child choices. And then if that's not working, then you have to say no. The problem is when they're really young,
yeah,
those terrible twos.
yeah, mhm,
That's where you have to really, they're still little. You can still set the boundaries physically without
mhm,
striking them, without spanking. Um, for example, if they're young enough to be in a crib and you put in a boundary and say no, they throw a tantrum. You say, okay, looks like you need to go into your crib until you're ready to talk.
mhm,
And then you sing a song to them as you take them to the crib, put them under crib, let them cry it out. And then when they're done crying, you come and pick them up.
yeah,
Um, they're a little bit older. They can't be in a crib. You can put them in their room.
yeah,
And then when they're ready to come out, you let them come out. They let them throw their tantrum
yeah,
in a controlled setting.
yeah,
Of course, they're not going to do it in church.
yeah,
If you're in church and throwing a tantrum, you may need to pick up the child and leave.
mhm,
That there's just no way around that.
yeah,
Um,
or a restaurant or
or a restaurant, and then you might need to avoid the restaurants until they're a little bit more mature.
mhm,
But again, this series, Parenting with Love and Logic, is really really effective in helping you navigate
mhm,
those situations.
yeah,
Um, and they're always going to think it's unfair.
yeah, oh,
They're
yeah,
always going to think it's unfair. Too bad. That's a lesson that they have to learn, that it's okay for the other person to say no,
mhm,
and it doesn't matter why,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Now it's also important, especially around the terrible twos, that you respect their no. They want some privacy. A lot of
Going to
times,
the bathroom.
yeah, going to the bathroom, and then you need to respect that no, allow them to exercise that no as many times as it's
So I
safe.
think that the clearest example of a no
Yeah,
is when you hug a child
yeah,
and the way you start is by asking them if they
mhm,
want a hug.
yeah,
And sometimes you'd be surprised. Some children feel creeped out by some adults and they don't want to
yeah,
be hugged.
mhm,
And if the children are hugged when they're saying no, what they're learning is my no's don't matter.
yeah,
And they grow up to be like us and
yeah.
have to go to therapy to learn to say no,
Exactly.
right?
And that's an easy
That's
situation for
easy situation.
it's easy for predators to take advantage of those kind of children that aren't allowed to say no.
They don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
So ask the child if they want a hug. If they say no, you don't give them a hug.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
kisses.
And actually, vegetables.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't eat your vegetables, you're going to be hungry all night.
Mhm.
You can't have candy. So you want your vegetables. They choose, well, I don't want anything. It's like, okay, you'll go
Mhm.
hungry.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll go hungry and then I'll see you at breakfast.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that.
Mhm.
Um,
You can tell dad didn't feed the kids as much when he talks about candy as a reward for vegetables.
I was the one giving them the candy.
Yes.
So yeah, I've grown out of that.
Sure.
Okay. All right. I don't know that there's much else to say about that. I think that the bottom line, just to recap that, is give them choices, teach them how to say no properly, because that's important too. That's a safety issue too. You
Mhm.
mentioned the predators,
Yeah.
because then they're not going to learn to say no to a predator.
Yeah.
And then what was the other thing we talked about on that one?
Um,
Give them choices. Oh, live the consequences. So eat your vegetables or you go to bed hungry.
yeah.
And then
Mhm.
they chose the consequence. They chose not to eat the vegetables. Okay.
Yeah.
But do ask them what they like. As a parent, you do need to make choices as to what is something healthy they'll eat.
Yeah.
Again, give them choices that you'll feel comfortable. So if they don't want green vegetables, well, they want carrots.
Yeah.
Something to that
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
so how do you stay consistent when one of us is a softie or keeps saying yes? And then what can we say when grandparents or relatives undermine our no in front of our kids?
Um, with grandparents, it's real easy. You limit the time with the
Yeah.
grandparents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you tell the grandparents if they come in and they bring buckets of chocolate after you've said chocolate needs to be minimum. Okay. So mom takes the chocolate
Yeah.
and you slowly give it to the child over the period of a year or whatever.
Mhm.
But the exposure to the grandparents is going to be need to be limited,
Yeah.
and both parents need to be okay with this.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we're pretty much in agreement on how
Mhm.
to handle um, our parents, our kids' grandparents.
Yeah.
So we have to come to an agreement. And then when it comes to your parents, to your mom, you handle it.
Mhm.
When it comes to mine, I handle it.
Yeah.
But we have to handle it. And you'll bring it up to me and tell me this is going on.
Yeah.
So we can't let the in-laws triangulate because that's
Mhm.
another disaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
The primary relationship here is mom and dad for the sake of the children.
Yeah.
So the grandparents become a secondary relationship.
Mhm.
They can help, they can be present, they can help with the child care, but they have to respect the parents' boundaries.
Yeah.
And this is going to come back and haunt us when we have grandchildren,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But they have to respect the parents' boundaries,
Yeah.
and that's not negotiable.
Mhm.
Okay, so what's the next one? Let's do a couple more. With friends and church, we talked a little bit about friends, right? So what are common questions that come up maybe with church?
How do we say no to invitations and ministries or favors when we're overextended but don't want to seem selfish?
If you seem selfish, that's their problem.
Yeah.
Okay, especially there is a tendency in a lot of these ministries to try to guilt you into participating.
Yeah.
Um, and remember that when we first joined the church, we had just joined the church. We had just moved locally, and they wanted us to donate six figures for a new building. And they were trying to make us feel guilty for not donating. I was like, where am I going to get six
I
figures?
know.
We have a newborn.
Yeah.
Where do you think? Do you think we have six figures?
Yeah.
Um,
My jaw hit the floor.
and we said, no, we can't afford that. And they said, well, you can get a loan. And
Yeah.
we didn't have trouble saying no to that.
Yeah. Well, we
We
just had no other
left.
choice.
We
Yeah.
we left. I mean, we
Yeah.
couldn't go. But my point here is that they often try to push people into those situations, and
Yeah.
you have every right to say no.
Yeah.
Now, often I think the problem is more the people that can't say no
Yeah.
than the ministry. So
Yeah.
if you're overextended, it's your responsibility to your family to say no. You can still donate um, money or help the church in other ways or help the community in other ways. But if it's your time and you have young children, that's your first priority.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and there, sadly, there are great churches but then there are some predatory, people in the giving business.
And it's not necessarily members of it's not the the people that run the church, is some of the people that volunteer
Yeah.
that are the ones that try to drag you into that
Yeah.
so that they can look good as well.
Or they think, well, I did it. Why can't you?
And we don't mean to pick on the church, but this happens around the community,
Yeah.
the neighborhood. I
Hmm.
remember that episode of Friends where Ross just moves into the new building and they wanted to donate $100 for the handyman who's retiring. And Ross says, um, yeah, but to me the handyman is just man. I don't know him. I don't. So anyway, they go through this whole
Yeah.
episode of trying to shame Ross into donating money, and then Phoebe donates some money. Anyway, so for all you friends, fans out there, uh, but the point being is that you have every right to say no to something like that.
Yeah,
And they will try to guilt you, but you don't have to worry about it. Just say no
yeah,
and move on with your life.
yeah,
Um, it sometimes helps to do affirmations in that regard. Is I have a right to say no and remind yourself because that guilt is
yeah,
coming from being a child that couldn't say no.
yeah, yeah,
Terrible too is you weren't
mm,
taught how to say no.
yeah. Mhm.
So,
All right. So, what phrases can we use to decline without overextending or lying?
okay. That's an interesting one. And
Can I answer that?
sure, go ahead.
I find myself, because that used to be my go-to. I always blamed it on the kids. That was so easy. They're sick or whatever. But then I realized I was lying. And so, as we were going through recovery, I realized that was wrong. And even to this day, if it's usually nowadays, it's through text. And I find that if I'm writing this extremely long, convoluted response back, that all I need to do is just say no and say, "Oh, sorry, I can't. I'm overcommitted," and it's that easy.
Yeah.
Or just I can't.
I'm not available.
I'm not available. And people don't ask. That's the crazy thing. I I used to always think that I had to explain myself, but even studies show that when you explain yourself too much, that people think that you're lying
You're
anyway.
lying. You're making stuff up.
Yeah,
But things like if they push and you say, well, I'm not available.
yeah,
I have a conflict.
yeah,
There's, well, people will ask me, well, I don't really have a conflict. That would be lying. Is like, do you want to do it? No. Well, there's your conflict.
yeah.
You don't have to explain it. Little information is just fine.
And I found that if I get into the habit of explaining to that person, the next time I'm gonna have to explain because
They're going to expect them.
they're habituated to well, what's her explanation this time? Whereas you just, I'm so sorry I'm overcommitted or I've got too much going on or I just can't. That's simple, and people don't ask further than that. They often don't even wonder. We often think a lot, so much about ourselves that we think everybody's going to that they want to inquire and they're going to have 10 minutes like a reporter, or they're going to have 10 different follow-up questions. They never do. I can't remember in the 15 years we've been in recovery and started this, I can't, or 17, I guess. I can't remember one time that anybody said why. I can't think of one time.
Yeah, they might say if they're sincere and they really want you to participate, are you sure? Can you think about it? Or
Mhm.
they might say something like that.
Yeah, or think about it,
And then you'll say, well, I'll consider it.
or if or if your schedule frees up, let me know.
Something like that.
Yeah,
And that's the person being polite. But if they
yeah,
insist and they pry, they're the ones that are being rude.
yeah, they are. And I
So
guess part of the reason I don't recall that happening is because we pretty much had we've walked away from those kind of people over the
yeah,
years.
that's the thing. As you get healthier,
Mhm.
these unhealthy people without boundaries, they kind of
They
disappear.
do. Yeah,
You don't even have to tell them to go away.
yeah,
They just stop showing up.
yeah,
It's something about that it's like an aura that forms around us that says, "I've got boundaries, bitch."
yeah.
And
Oh
they
boy.
don't come close.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's and then healthy people start gravitating towards you.
They do. Yeah, it's interesting how you attracts like.
Or then people that for some time disappear, then they start coming back because they've been in therapy.
Yes, I love
That
that one. I
yeah,
love
that
that one.
happens is like, wait, you're talking that's boundary talk. Are you in therapy? Is like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, tell me more. Let's
Mm,
compare notes and stuff. So,
mhm,
okay, well, that's all we've got for today. I think we need
mm,
to wrap it up. Um, we had a lot of questions about how to say no that people struggle with that. I hope this episode was helpful
mhm.
and we'll see you next time.
All right. Good night. Thank you for joining us today at Boundaries and Beyond. We would love for you to like and share with all those boundaryless friends and family members out there, as well as subscribe to our podcast. Also, please join us on Instagram at Boundaries Beyond Podcast. See you then.
See you then.